Well, I can say I certainly was not expecting that. Um, as we finally come to the last of the guinea pig films, Devil Doctor Woman from 1990. This was the final one released, but it was the fourth produced. So you have the first two that are the fake snuff films. The next two, which would have been He Never Dies and this, as the slapstick comedy, splatstick comedy, more comedic films. And then 5 and 6, which were the more serious ones. But for whatever reason, it was released so, He Never Dies, Mermaid in a Manhole, Android in Notre Dame, and then this, which I was honestly expecting this to be the worst one, because probably about 8 years ago when I bought all these and saw them for the first time, I actually shut this one off about 5 minutes in because I knew this one was more comedic, but I made about 5 minutes in and I was just like, this is so fucking stupid. I don't think I'm going to be able to sit through it. And what this movie is there's a famous Japanese cross-dresser transvestite actor named Peter, who is our Devil Doctor Woman. I'm guessing it kind of like the Divine of over in Japan. And basically she treats these patients that have really extreme, crazy, out of this world diseases and disorders. And it's played up for gory comedy. And it's broken up in these little vignettes. And it was directed by Hajime Tabi. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And yeah, it goes on to talk about how fourth produced, last released, whatever. Where I turned it off was because, I like the opening. It's this very white room. There's a baby doll on this table, and she walks up with a scalpel, slits the baby doll down the torso, and just this geyser of blood sprays out. Like, okay, that's cool. There's, I think, 9 segments. And the first one is, like, spontaneous combustion disease. They're all very poorly named. But it's this family that will spontaneously combust if they get angry or excited. So they're all standing there. And, I mean, the video quality is very bad. I mean, even compared to the other ones, it looks cheaper. It almost looks like someone else trying to do a guinea pig film with less money and worse equipment. But they're all standing there outside, getting insults thrown at them. And then she walks back up and is like, well, I'll treat you individually. Each one gets berated and then their heads explode. And of course, they all make really silly faces. I mean, that was one reason why I shut it off. Because I was just like, this is so incredibly stupid. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit through it. The last guy to blow up, he gets insulted somehow. And he just starts screaming like, what? Then he just makes this face like, ah. Then his head explodes. It does have the element of surprise, because there is one part where, this woman's sitting there with a baby, and the baby's being assaulted, and the baby's head explodes. I mean, it's not particularly gory. It does look like an explosion. It's even set up like the Monty Python skit, How Not to Be Seen. Just kind of like from a distance, people standing there. The second bit is a guy whose different parts of his body take on a mind of its own, and they try to hurt him. Like his hand keeps trying to choke him, and the Devil Doctor Woman has to keep stabbing the different parts of his body that take over. And eventually, it's like this stupid thing where there's a board, half of his hair is like gray and he's kind of messed up, and he's doing this thing where it's like a board, and he's like popping out with like the different side, and he keeps like pulling him in and hurting him. I shut it off during the spontaneous combustion one years ago, and I've never finished it. So putting this in again, I'm like, I don't know if I can sit through this. I mean, the humor of He Never Dies was terrible. Android in Notre Dame was pretty fucking bad. I mean, what's this going to be like? And then the third bit is a guy that has like a face on his torso. A really wrinkly, fucked up face. I mean, it makes Belial... Take Belial from Basket Case and make the effects look like John Hurt in Elephant Man, or like the Hills Have Eyes remake. Like, that's how bad the effects are. And the Devil Doctor Woman, even though all her methods involve mutilation and just really bad shit, turns him into a celebrity because it's like a gangster wannabe, like a Yakuza kingpin wannabe. And he just goes to the hood with the front of his shirt over his face and does all these stupid dances with people. And I'm watching this, I'm just like, this is so fucking ridiculous. I cannot watch this. I don't find this funny. But as it went on, I was like, okay, some of these actually are kind of clever, funny. The funniest lines are ones that are not over the top. Like, there's like this fancy restaurant that's serving human flesh for like the first time legally. And there's this guy there who's sort of this, I guess, news entrepreneur on location or whatever. He's like, oh, we have human, like, sausage with human wrists on the side. The intestines have been used for sausage. Salads with eyeballs. And I mean, the effects are not that great in this segment. But it's little tiny lines that are kind of funny. Like, there's like this soup dish that comes out, like this cream of liver or whatever. And he says, oh, the person with that liver would not have made it 3 weeks with the advanced cancer he had. He like dips his finger in and tastes it. He's like, definitely infected. Taste it. In fact, it tastes like my boyfriend's ass. Like, but he says it more dryly and nonchalant than I just did. And it's more so the stuff like that that's funny. There are some bits that are very clever. I mean, I think it's the next one is like zombie rot disease. It kind of reminded me of the death insurance bit from Kentucky Fried Movie. Which, if you haven't seen Kentucky Fried Movie, it's a bunch of little vignettes by Zucker Brothers and Jim Abrams. Very, very funny. One of my favorite comedies of all time. It's from the 70s. There's a bit with Henry Gibson talking about how death can tear people apart. But with death insurance, you can keep your deceased family member with you. And it shows the family doing family stuff, but just with like a dead kid off on the side. But it shows this guy who, as it goes on, it shows the percentage on the zombie rot scale, and it becomes more and more decayed. And, you know, I thought that was kind of funny. Especially with, there's this one character popping up. Like, first it was a cleaning lady, and then it's this woman that's on a date with the zombie guy, even though he's married. But it is the doctor woman sort of like in disguise to like get to know her patients. And even when they're on a date, she talks about how he smells like festering diarrhea and keeps putting deodorant on him. Not all the jokes in that segment were funny, but I thought the overall idea was kind of humorous. The next one was kind of stupid. It was like Siamese organ disease. A lot of them have like carbuncle at the end of them. It's just this woman walking through a subway, and there's a box with a blanket over it, and she lifts it. It's just a bunch of organs. It's like the Siamese twin organ that's chasing this woman all over the place. it'll like jump up at her, it'll hit the door and splat in like slow motion, or hit a toll booth window in slow-mo and smear. And eventually, Devil Doctor Woman will be standing there with like a Oregon Tupperware bin, and it will jump and she'll catch it. That one was kind of another one. This one I thought was clever as well. It even started off funny, and even though didn't quite know where it was going, she puts on this little glove with these scalpels on it, and you get she's a sadist. She talks about how she gets off on surgeries like this. We see this guy laying there. He's got a heart tattoo on his arm, and she's like, this man has a shitty tattoo. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. And it's like, they call it shitty tattoo disease. And you think it's just going to be that. It's just like, okay, she has to mutilate his skin to get this shitty tattoo off. But the shitty tattoo has a mind of its own, and it can change its shape and formation and move all over his body, which we see and is done with stop motion, which I'm a huge fan of. It looks more like a Sesame Street, kind of old school Sesame Street, kind of stop motion. Like the guy on I can't remember the name of the bit on Sesame Street. It's like a guy on a drinking glass and it moves around the counter. Because you see his heart tattoo kind of moving all over his skin, turns into different things. We even see it go in his ass, sort of stick like a tongue out, like, of his ass, going all over him. And I wonder how long it took to do that, because they had to animate each, centimeter or inch of each drawing. And I love stop motion. I'm a huge sucker for it. Whether it be Evil Dead, a Basket Case, or like a Tim Burton or Henry Selick film. And so even though we don't see it, her way of removal is to just stab, like her hand sort of goes down off screen. The guy's screaming, she's cutting it off. And when she pulls it up, yeah, it looks like just transparent plastic covered in blood. But then we get the idea that the tattoo keeps moving, so she keeps missing and had to keep going over it. Which also felt like a Monty Python bit, so I appreciated that. And then when he sits up, he's completely skinned. I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting it to be that extreme. And even though the filleted skin just looked like cheap plastic covered in fake blood, the effects of the skinned guy looked pretty well done. Actually, I think the one that was in between there was the guy who, he has high perspiration, but instead of sweat, it's blood. The joke is, I can't even go in a sauna or masturbate, and it shows him in a sauna covered. And instead of just covering the guy in blood, they put like beads on him, so it does look like he's sweating blood. I thought, okay, that's kind of decent looking. He's like, I can't get married with this body. I want to be normal. I want to jerk off. It's stupid, but I thought it was funny. And she's like, well, we can help you. I don't know how they did it, but they got him to somehow puke up all his blood. And so in slow motion, it's just like him regurgitating and spewing all this blood. Sort of like the opening credits in Zombieland. You get that one zombie that's spewing it. I liked that. I liked that story. And then the last one, it's basically these 4 guys sitting on a rooftop in like hospital PJs trying to one-up each other on who has the most messed up disease. Like the first guy, his body's decomposing, but when he takes his foot out of his slipper, it basically looks like Hamburger Helper. So it's like, eh. The next guy talks about how parts of his body, was it that one? Yeah. Well, they don't start with the first guy. The second guy's decomposing. The second one, parts of his body stretch. Like his nipple is like this long. And he's got a mole that's like that long. Then he's like, check this out. They're like, is that your dick? that must be awesome. He's like, that's just the foreskin. And of course, we get to see it up close. Third guy says air excretes from his body, so he puffs in cigarette and smoke comes out. And then the first guy says his is, what was his first one? Oh, his heart can move all over his body. Like, just, we see his throat go like that. We see, like, part of his foot, like, pretend this is his foot, obvious makeup going like that. But even when it's in his mouth, all he's doing is, and they're like, oh my god, it's in your nose. And all he does is flare his nostrils, you know, effects that literally cost nothing. Then they go through round 2. The decomposing guy, he vomits, but there's a shell. His vomit comes in a shell, and when he cracks it open, it looks like vomit. There's like this vomit alien thing that forms. Next guy has a similar one, like his shit comes to life. And it even said like protozoic poop disease with peanuts. So it's like this turd in a Tupperware that it comes up and starts going like, yeah. And the peanuts like form its teeth. Really fucking ridiculous. Really silly. And I think each the last guy and then the guy on the other end each have one more, but this movie's so ridiculous I don't remember. And then, you know, the end credits is just, oh, and one of the girls in spontaneous combustion, because it's not just the family, they go around to other people, is the neighbor girl from Mermaid to Manhole. She's pregnant and there's like a explosion in her stomach. So then when they're all done, she comes back up to the screen. It's like, hope you enjoyed, you know, my stories. And, you know, do you want me to be your doctor? Gives like an evil smile. It's like, as the curtain falls, I have a surprise for you. The iron pie. And it's just like this black plate with a bunch of nails. And it just, the credits roll with each cast member with their name getting hit in the face with it like a pie. But of course, blood goes everywhere. I appreciated this part because they're all cracking up. They all know what they're doing is stupid. So they're all laughing. It's pretty much bloopers, but with a gag. So even though I did find lots of parts of this incredibly fucking stupid. Even still to this day, like, yes, I shut it off after the spontaneous combustion family and the guy that's like, explodes. I was like, okay, this is going to be incredibly stupid and incredibly silly. And I'm not watching this. Wasn't excited to put this in this time. But I will say, there were some clever bits. The effects did not always work. Sometimes they did, like the zombie guy as he's continuously more and more rotted. The guy sweating blood, it actually did look like he was sweating blood. You know, the way it was put on him in beads instead of just dumping it on him. The skinned guy with the shitty tattoo. Yeah, the skin didn't look real, but once he was skinned, it looked alright. I still thought this movie was incredibly stupid. I appreciated the humor of like an overall vignette. Like, you know, the zombie guy one did have some good jokes. He's with his wife, they walk out of a place, they're holding hands, and she's like, you know, please don't die before me. And he's like, I think I already did. Promise you won't die before me? So I think I already answered that. So just little dry things like that. And then he makes her pinky swear when they're doing the pinky swear thing. She breaks his pinky off. It did have some jokes that I thought were funny. Yes, it was preposterously crazy and stupid. Whether it be with some of the gore gags or even going as far as like with dick skin and puke and shit monsters with peanuts for teeth. It's not for everyone. Not every bit of the humor got to me. I either thought it was really stupid or over the top, silly, and infantile. But some of it I found humorous and funny. I I can actually say I liked this more than He Never Dies, especially as a comedy um, entry of the series. I liked it better than Android of Notre Dame because that movie just didn't make any fucking sense. At least with this one, you can kind of has the element of surprise, like, okay, what's this next disease gonna be? I'm still not really a fan of. It's nothing I'll probably watch again anytime soon. I can't say I still like it. I liked it way, way more than I thought I would. Again, shutting it off after only 5.5 minutes years ago. I thought deservedly so. Yeah, still, I mean, I still like the first two and the mermaid one the best. But I would, surprisingly, to my absolute shock, it would probably then go this, then He Never Dies, then the Android one. Which I always thought, judging on just those 5 minutes, that this would be last, you know, by default. I'm still not a fan, but I was pleasantly surprised. So, with that said, finally got through the Japanese guinea pig series. But, yeah. Can't say I like it. Can't say I'm a fan of this, or even as the series. I'm not a fan of the series as a whole. But I thought this was much better than I thought it would be. It does have some funny vignettes, some funny stories. As a whole, pun intended, but also literally, it's a pretty shitty film. But anyway, that's it for Guinea Pig, finally. Thank you for watching.